All right, my people, we are live, and today's esteemed guest is Rick Duree. He is on our newest creator spotlight. We literally just had Carissa Grant with us the other night, and both are from Charter Comics. And so glad to have Rick on the show. We met up during Cowtown a couple weeks ago. It
Yeah,
was good to actually meet you in person. I mean, that was a charter convention. That's what that was.
there
Like
was
it,
everybody there.
between you and Lori and William, Zach, Ken, and Chris and McLean, I was like, man, the only people we don't have here is just onesie twosies. So it'd be nice to have everybody in one spot, but we all know how that is. Everybody lives in different places.
Yeah, we had also had Turner and Childress. I mean, there was a lot of our artists that are there as well that do our covers that weren't necessarily 100% charter, but they do a lot of our work. So, yeah, the place was a good, 20% of it was charter people. And it was nice to be with them, be down there in Fort Worth, back in the cowboy area. That was nice.
It's always fun, especially like Chris. Chris McLean run the show from Charter. And then they also are from Pastime. So
Right.
that's where I got to really meet up with them for the first time was at Pastime because they had William come in for a
Hmm.
signing, and so
Right.
just sat down and started talking to them, understand like. I mean, they were so busy, and then like not this time, but last year's, I was trying to find Chris, couldn't find. They were so busy because of the artists they
Well,
had
that's good
there.
then. That's good. Better
Yeah,
to be busy. It's a question mark going forward for comic creators. Are Comic Cons going to be what they were in the past going forward? That's a hard one because it seems like there's a lot more events now, which is great, but that means that each event has maybe fewer customers. It's tough. It's hard to know.
and it's hard from a financial perspective as a customer that goes to
Mhm.
conventions because you can only go to so many. You can't go
Right.
to everything, so you have to start to be selective about where you go
Yeah.
because you want to get the most bang for your buck too. As far
Right.
as seeing people. Um, like for me, I go, to Fan Expo, I go to
Mhm.
Cowtown, Retro Expo, the biggest ones in Dallas, here because they bring a lot of talent here.
Yeah.
You guys coming in is great to get everybody. And the difference between, I would say, Cowtown, like Fan Expo, is it's not celebrity based. This
Mhm.
is Cowtown is a true comic convention. The old days of sitting down, talking to artists and
Right.
creators and finding books that you've been looking for forever, while finding something new and
Mhm.
to talk about and to understand that hey, there's new stuff out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Cowtown was my first Comic Con I've ever had a table at. And I got my comics in from the publisher, and I had them in my hands, and I wouldn't know what to expect, but I guess maybe my interpersonal skills won out for me because about 40 or 50% of the people that walked by the table and I said hi to ended up buying some books or some other merch that I had. So it was really nice percentage of the customers that were buyers for my table.
And that's awesome because today's events that we always have are called Kickstarters for people that don't know. Kickstarter is a way for creators, whether it be artists, writers, or even colorers I've seen, to reach out to a new inventory of customers and say, hey, this is what I have that's available.
Yeah.
I would like for you to back it and support it. It's something new to you, and we hope that you would like it, and come back repeatedly to keep buying and buying because it's something that's going to be fun to read, visually appealing,
Right.
and it'll keep you engaged into a story that's good together. So, like for example, you just had Orphan Bloodline, one, and then I'll raise you another.
Oh, you went to the double. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So, and I had to show him because we were talking at Cowtown and had William sign the one, but those that just came in, not too long ago, about
Right.
a month or so,
Right.
and so it was nice to get those before Cowtown to get William to sign his. And but what's cool is like you're old school, like the old school '70s and '80s artists. You sign them on the inside, and to me, I
Right.
actually like that better than on the cover sometimes.
I had a comic I bought a while. It was a long time ago, and it was an oldie, and it had said up on the CGC grading, it said author signature, and it wasn't on the cover. because it was on the inside. So yeah, I think that is an old school way to do it. Nowadays, you have to have the right kind of markers. These almost paint markers that do well on covers and stick really well. I was using Sharpies. I'm going to change it up. I don't think Sharpies do that well, especially when you have these covers. If you can see it, that's foil. You can see that. I mean, when you, I don't know if it's called foil, holographic. There's all these different terms, chromium, all these different terms. But on this holographic covers, I mean, it's hard to get that ink to stay. Those Sharpies.
And that's a good point, because like, I mean, even people that's been signing books forever have changed what they've used. I've seen people bringing Copic markers out to sign now because of that same reason.
Yeah.
Because we want it to last, you know, because permanent marker will actually fade if people don't watch it over time. Like, it can still fade some too. And so it's not as strong as it was, you know. So you actually see people say, "Hey, can you re-sign it? Because I can barely see it."
Oh, that's funny. Well, you know what? If I'm ever asked to re-sign, because I'm still doing Comic Cons and theirs is they're getting a little bit dated with the sun and bleaching, I might sign it twice more just because.
Well, it was funny because my buddy Jamie Tyndall.
I love Jamie. He's my favorite artist.
He's one of the nicest people you could ever talk to, too. You know, just sitting down talking to him. I had him do me a Lady Death sketch a long time ago, and this is when he was first starting. And so he had this really small signature kind of at the time, versus his bigger, normal one that he has. I'm like, Jamie, I want you to re-sign this in your new signature. He's looking at it he's like, this is damn old, and I'm like, yeah, it's old. This is like a long time ago.
Funny.
It was off an old Image blank cover from a long time ago, and I was like, but it's for me, it was a nostalgic piece. Like, it's like seeing him grow into what he's done, seeing where charter people have grown and what they've done. I mean, you look at William, Ken, I mean, you guys even got Austin St. John doing redemption books, the Red Ranger. People don't understand this. Like, I mean, he's a big celebrity, but he has a story he wants to tell, and that's what I like about Charter. Charter actually gives people a way to tell their story that somebody else might not have let you told, and be open with it.
The thing about Charter that I like, so I was asked to do an article for Comics Illustrated, the new magazine that just came out this last couple days ago, actually. So in the next few months, you might see my name on one of the articles talking about the pros and cons of new comic creators joining a publisher or going it solo with self-publishing. And I think Charter is great, like medium range. You can do a lot of freedoms in Charter, but they also have, they're moving toward that national distribution for us. So we're able to get some collaboration and some know-how and people in the industry, ins and outs, some advice. But then we don't have to give up ownership of our IP. We don't have to, sign all those contracts. It's a good middle ground. And I think my hope is more Charter Comics copycats will pop up as, Joes and Janes are doing their comics and they start having buddies in the Facebook groups and so forth. And they can make their own organization and get it put into the big time national distributors once they get established.
And that's exactly what I've seen happen recently too. Look at Merck Magazine. So if you think about Merck 2 or 3 years ago, they weren't a huge company. What they got huge on was Kickstarter. Kickstarter really brought them in and brought them to the artists. And of course, being tied to Comics Elite helps, for them. But they've done the same thing. They brought in people who have stories they want to tell. And now they're on their next volumes. Like, we go back to the old days of volume 1s, volume 2s of series. They're on to volume 2 of their next series. And now they're bringing in new people to start writing it. And so that's what I like about Charter. Charter does exactly the same thing. And that's what I want to see. I want to see that change of stories, even if it's one you've read, but it's been done differently now from a different perspective.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to make it new these days. What I, just from my own experience from this last Cowtown, I'll show you this. This is one of our items here. The Mad Scientist Rib Rub. Do you remember tasting this?
I do. I remember that.
This was our tester. We actually sold out of these, and I didn't sell out all my comics, but they bought this and walked away with the rub. Oh, it is delicious. It has that sweet heat flavor, award-winning rub. And I I would wave it at people saying, come taste this rub. And they would walk over and start the conversation with me about what we were doing. So that's kind of how you have to do it at these conventions. You have to have that grab. I think Lori has the hot sauce. Now I have the rub here and the Nintendo. Isn't that sweet?
That is it. And if you're old like us, you know what that is. As soon as you see that cartridge, you know what that is.
People walk right over the table. They go, does this play a game? They don't even know. They don't even care what game it is. They don't even care if they have an NES anymore. If it would be a real game, they would just buy it right there and walk away to have it. So I think that's something I might look into, an 8-bit quick game that I can plug into this just for fun.
You know what you need to do is William did the same thing for Psycho Sal. You know, you two need to get
the idea from.
And y'all need to get games together. You two have a game each and just sell that as part of a Kickstarter. I guarantee you that will sell out easily.
Maybe we should do a fighting game, his characters versus mine. He has the murderers and I have the mad scientists. It just goes together.
Oh, will. Well, that's actually a good segue. So, let me know a little bit. So everybody out there, of course, they're new to they're new to you. I've known you for a bit. But kind of introduce yourself. Where are you from? How did you get into comics, of course, but most importantly, what do you like about comics?
So, I got into comics late in life. And I mean, I was 30 years old, but a lot of people read them when they're younger. I just didn't. But I said to myself, I need to find out what this is. What stories are great. I'm just going to go online, go to the websites and figure out what the top 100 best storylines. I don't care the publisher, Image, Dark Horse, DC, Marvel. I don't care who it is. I would just go and pick up the top 20 graphic novels of all time and I would read them. And no matter if they were made in the 70s or 80s or if they're made in the 2000s when I started getting into comics about 2002, it doesn't really matter because the stories were great. And that's really what I wanted to bring when I started comics. I didn't want to bring the best art or the best covers. That's all great. But what I really wanted to bring to the industry was amazing stories. And that's what I think we've done with Orphan Bloodline. One of the cool things about the story is it lets us reimagine what it is to be a magic system. Now, magic systems, you might think, fireball, a psychic attack, normal kind of magic systems that for the X-Men might be using. But Orphan Bloodline redoes those. It reimagines it. Everybody in the system has a blood disorder, and those can kill you. I mean, they can be bad for you, or if you have the right cybernetic, biomachinery adaptation, then you bring your blood disorder and your biomachinery adaptation together, and now you have a blood power. And that's the new magic that I'm bringing in, the new magic system. If people are Brandon Sanderson readers, they know about Mistborn. He did a new magic system with stones. I think that's what it was. I think it was years ago I read that, but I think it was stones and minerals. Well, this is with blood disorders and cybernetics. So if you want to try something new, a new D&D campaign, for instance, or some kind of a D20 tabletop game you're doing, mix it up by not just giving them a magic spell, but actually have it be collaborative with their weapon they use, or have it be collaborative with a disease or a psychology of theirs that may be a positive or a negative. You just got to mix it up. Don't just give them magic. Giving people magic is so old school to me. You have to earn that ability. So that's what I'd say. That's what I think we've done really well with Orphan Bloodline.
And that's going to be the difference too. Is like, I've read through the first 2 issues. I'm of course invested in the storyline, like most of Charter Comics, because it's sci-fi based or horror based, typically from Charter.
Yeah.
And so that, of course, is way up my alley, especially like aliens and things like that. And then you start thinking about like the blood disorders. You're talking about like that's a human thing that actually happens. Right. People have it, and so that might hit home for people because of the way it is. But just think about like, what if you could work with that and fix part of it and use it for something else? Like, right. I mean, that would be historical. Really, it would be in the making. Like, for example, like if you had multiple sclerosis, or something like that, and like you have issues with nerves and damage. Well, what if you could fix those nerves and damage by using a cybernetic, implant? Okay, yeah. Now you've literally turned into Ghost in the Machine at that point.
Right. Yeah, there's really no end to it except for your knowledge. Now, one thing I would say is Orphan Bloodline, we use real science. We use real bleeding edge biomachinery, things that actually exist in real life, like rail guns, magnetic guns. They exist. They're just not that advanced, or they're not that effective in real life. But in my story, that's the fantasy jump. Is I say these technologies, they're now full on quality. So that's the jump that I make. Or this blood disorder exists in reality, but now it's like more intense than what we would have in reality. That's the only fantasy jump that I make, is I make things a little bit more big, more real. And so when you're reading through, you're going to see real symbols from the past, real blood disorders, real biology, real illness, real cybernetics. It's just, to me, that brings it to life a little bit more. It's not as distant. I don't have to stop my belief system and take on that belief system. I can actually live in this world while, maybe if I have a blood disorder, maybe this could be a blood power. And I start thinking about that.
Definitely. And you just think about if you had cancer, and you say you weaponize cancer, for example, you turned it into not a bad thing, but something that you could use against somebody else, for a situation like, say it's war. It happens all the time. You look in World War One, World War Two, Korean War. They used all kinds of nerve gas and Agent Orange, and the thing about that though, somebody weaponized cancer like that, like the damage that would cause, not just to people, but if it, let's say it would have affected the environment as well.
Well, one of the things we do in issue 4, which is the one after the Kickstarter we're doing now, issue 3 is what we're doing here tonight, turning it on here, which I should do that, right? I should turn it on.
Hit the button, yes.
Oh, yeah. Wait a second. Let me push this. I'm ready to launch. Let me push this and see what happens, okay? And then I'll tell you about Chernobyl, which is what I was about to get to. Hold 1 second. Congratulations, your project is live. All right. That's awesome. That's exciting. Okay, back to Chernobyl. You mentioned Agent Orange and the wars. So in Orphan Bloodline, a lot of these natural disasters done by governments or done by plague or what have you, a lot of them were created and organized by the bloodline, the secret society. Orphan Bloodline is the main character. He was orphaned by the bloodline and he came into the bloodline as an orphan. So this is his story. But the bloodline itself goes back to Pharaoh. Mm-hmm. And when they, in the 4th issue, which is coming up, they get together with the Soviet Union to create Chernobyl as a nuclear power plant that was built totally wrong because it was built for the purposes that the bloodline had. And so we bring in real world experience, real world history. Anything that Wikipedia has on there, that's going to be in the book. And then we twist it just a hair, and you don't really know where our fantasy comes in and the real world history ends. You don't know where that line is blurred too much, which I think is really exciting. One of the examples, I'll just show you these I have here. These are tarot cards that we give out at our table. And I love tarot cards. I think they're fun. But the lady in our story, the lady who created tarot cards, had a blood disorder. And her blood disorder was she could have, I think it was acidosis. So she had too much acid in her blood, and it would cause her to get dizzy, which is what acidosis does. It makes you get dizzy and even faint. But then in my story, she gets dizzy and faints, and she sees the future versus just seeing random stuff, which you would do if you had acidosis. You might see, whatever figments in your imagination. But in this, you're actually seeing the future. And she created the tarot cards as a medium to channel her power through, so it wouldn't kill her by frying her brain over time. So these are tools. And now we look at Wikipedia, who created the first tarot deck, they say they don't know. So that's where the Orphan Bloodline comes in with its fantasies. We say we do know. That's the jump, even though all the rest is right on.
Yeah, and see that, that's what's nice about it, is it's magic, it's science, and it's history all in one. And to me, that's going to be fun. Now, granted, kids today might not know as much history as, say, us in our generation, because of learning the way we learned. Like, who remembers Encyclopedia Britannica, and reading through all those as kids. So you learn a lot of history that way. But I think it's also a good avenue to say, hey, by the way, you can learn something from this book too. It's not just a story to read, but here's some snippets of history to bring it in. Like, and I would say, I would ask this question too. as far as age appropriate,
Mhm.
what
Right.
age would be appropriate for the story?
You know, this is a good question. People say automatically it's rated R because there's murder and there's drug use and there's brothel and there's human experiments and there's sadness. But it's PG-13. We don't have any nudity. I feel like PG-13 is the right way to go. I put it on the back of the book where it says, teen plus age range. That's one of the questions I've actually had as a new creator a year ago when I really started hitting this hard. I said, do I need an NSFW cover? Do I need to get eyeballs on my book by doing something more adult? And that's a question that's unknown. There's a lot of that stuff out there that makes money. And so, what do you think? I mean, I think Charter generally doesn't do a whole bunch of that, but it doesn't ban it. And I don't know. What do you think when you write books?
So when I write, of course, it's going to be to the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm going to sell a book, I should be able to sell the book based upon the story and the artwork inside. The artwork outside should be captivating to bring you to the story.
Mm-hmm.
But does it have to be NSFW? No, I don't think so. I don't think you have to have it for everything. It's good alternative. It's good variant covers. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you want to have something that pushes it a little bit, but do you have to have it? No. And you're right. If you look at Charter, there's very few of those covers actually. What's
Very few.
selling the Charter books is the story
Yeah.
and the art inside. And to me, that's what should sell the book.
Yeah. Yeah. So uh, selling, easy ways to sell. Do you have any secrets? Help me understand. If we're not going to throw out boobs on the cover, help me know what to do.
So what you do is you bring in the artists that do that kind of stuff, but have them do something different. So, for example, like if you see William, he's bringing in Ryan Kincaid, he's bringing in Amy Good, and he's bringing in some of them, and he might have one or two, like adult covers, but it's mostly the artists that they're bringing in. The names that you bring in a lot of people, and that always helps. I've seen that is the number one seller. I mean, if for example, Merck magazine, they'll sell 50,000 to $200,000 per Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And it's because when you bring in names like Shikari, Lenadai, Lyrics, I mean, I've seen Art Germ on books for Kickstarters. If you sell an Art Germ, it's going to get sold. So the names definitely help out. Does it mean that you're selling out? No, because you know what? The nice thing too is that you're bringing in somebody from that caliber in to
Right.
have their interpretation of your character. Um, so it doesn't have to be adult rated, but it could, let them have the opportunity to draw it the way they want. Of course, you own it; it's your IP, so you
Mhm.
get ultimate creative decision. But let them have fun with it. That's what I've done.
Right. I think that's the way to go. I like bringing in the professional, like the big premier artists. And if you're starting out, if anybody watching this is starting out and not knowing what to do and how much to pay and all that, with the comes to artists, a lot of these premier artists will work with you.
Mhm.
They'll throw you a bone. This industry is all about helping people out. It makes me glad to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, our indie scene that we have today is different than the indie scene from the 90s. So, if you think about in the 90s, it was let's revolt against Marvel and DC. We're going to make Image. We're going to
Mhm.
make Valiant. We're going to make these things. But what happened was it kind of got lost in the gray of that because you had people making so many books, so many covers, so much money that was made, and then everything was lost in between. You had the artists, you had the writers that that still stuck to the gun, stuck to what they did, and they're still around today.
Right.
The Jim Lees, the Jim Valentinos, Wells Prasasios, a lot of them are still around, but you just don't see it, for what they are anymore. I mean, if they're not writing stories or if they're doing artwork, it's so astronomically expensive that
Right.
us as normal people, there's no way we could get Jim Lee to do one of our covers.
Right.
It ain't gonna happen. But what I could see, for example, is I've seen Jim Valentino. I've seen him doing covers for independent people. Vic Moya, he's been doing covers, and it's because they actually saw the vested interest in the indie scene.
Mhm.
They're still here for the right reasons, and they're having fun, and
What do
that's
you think
amazing.
about what do you think about homage covers? I happen to love homage covers. In fact, one of them for the main cover for my issue 3 is an homage to the cover of the DVD series or Breaking Bad, the TV show. So
I don't mind homage covers if it's not been overdone. If I see another ASM 300 cover, I think I'm going to throw it. Um, but I do like takes on stories done differently. Stray Dogs, for example, does that. They do like all these homage covers, but they're new. Like they're new ones done. They did a Breaking Bad one similar, but then they've done all these other ones like In the Heat of the Night. They had a cover for like In the Heat of the Night. I'm like, that's just random. You don't see that anymore.
right, right,
And then like Coffin comics, they do homage covers with Stephen Butler. They
yeah,
do a homage cover every time they have a Kickstarter, and he does it. And there's a lot of those, but it's like, do I want every one of those? No, because there's some that I really personally love, like Journey into Mystery, Strange Tales,
right, yeah,
those old books from the 60s.
absolutely,
I love that style. The Silver Surfer,
yeah,
Fantastic Four. Like the Fantastic Four issue with the Watcher, with the Saint Galactus
right,
coming, that's been done 100 times. Like everybody's done that one. So
yeah.
to see ones come out like an X-Men one, like people don't really homage that cover.
It's
Like
hard. There's a lot of people on the
it
cover.
is. It is hard. And I think that's the one reason why people don't want to do it. But
You
that'd
know,
be
my favorite homages are the Fantastic Four. I mean, those covers are just so epic. In fact, the is it issue 4 or 5 that I have has an homage from Fantastic Four. The one where you have the guy behind the curtain, the puppet master, and
oh yeah.
he's holding the strings of the Fantastic Four. Yeah, it looks great. So you guys can see that coming up. But in this one, we have one of our main characters, Manga. Her name is Manga. And then there's the main one that with Breaking Bad homage. And then there's Mesmer. He's the guy who's seen back in time, the communicating through blood from the past. And that's Franz Mesmer from Austria. Really existed, created what we call mesmerism or hypnosis. And he's on the cover doing his thing. I felt like making things look eerie like that cover really, I think, makes the book stand out a little bit. We want to be different. We want to be eerie. Oh, yeah, we can go through it right now. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, let's go on to that. I figured first thing first, we got to play the video. I always like watching these ones from everybody.
But when you start this, once you get to me speaking, you can just pause it because I'm already on the show.
Oh yeah.
There it is. Yeah, so you get to see a lot of the art in there, and we're going to see it down here. You get to see some of the lore of the world, the sacred ancestral items of power, the biomachinery adaptations. So here's the covers. We have the Breaking Bad homage, the Franz Mesmer there doing his mesmerism, and then Manga, her cover. The Manga cover was done as a gift from one of our fans. I mean, an artist who wanted to get her name out there, and she goes, "Let me do the cover for you." I'm like, "Great, sure." And I thought it was just really well done. Threw her on the front cover there of issue 3. Manga has an eye patch because her blood disorder is hyperhemoglobin, and hyperhemoglobin takes the oxygen to the blood cells quicker and with more oxygen. And what happens when you get more oxygen and more energy to your blood, you actually heal quicker. So she doesn't have Wolverine healing. Don't get all crazy. There's no Wolverine healing going on here. None of this Superman's dead underground, but somehow he's healing. None of that healing going on. But she has a little bit of trickle healing going on from her hyperhemoglobin. And so they put a bionic eyeball in that would normally kill people. You know, people say that the electricity between the brain and the bionics would fry your brain. But because she can gradually heal, her body can withstand those connections between the cybernetic eye and her brain. So she can do stuff like, of course, X-ray vision, which everybody seems to always want X-ray vision. Yeah, and she has thermal sight, and she can see at night, obviously, and she can see 10 times zoom, and she can see microscopic, but she can also control a drone and see what the drone is doing from her eyeball. So she'll have her vision of her one eye and her vision from the drone in the other eye. That'd be confusing. Try drawing that. See how you get that done for the readers.
That would be kind of cool to see, like the drawing, like in like 2 panels. Like this is what she sees on the left. This is what she sees on the right.
Yeah, it'd be confusing. The hope would make it confusing for the reader, like it would be confusing for her. Mm-hmm. You know, that would be a feat to behold. Here's some interior art for issues 1 through 3. And then I think, in my opinion, I think it's very colorful. The color just really made it happen. And these are the add-ons. You have the ukiyo-e style, which is an Imperial Japanese art style, which I'm a huge fan of Imperial Japan, you know, samurai, all that old world, karate and martial arts. And we did the whole, that's an 18-page book. We did that as a side story, all in ukiyo-e style. Nobody does that. So if you guys really like really, truly great Japanese old school art for like $2 as an add-on, buy this as an add-on once you get your book, because you're going to see this art and you're going to be blown away. I just love it, how they did it with the watercolor look. And then on the right side is the source book. Now, this is important. The source book actually is called now the Art and Source Book. There's 20 pages of black and whites that are for a coloring book in the back of the book. So you get a coloring book there. And then you have about 60 plus pages of content. Now, this content is character dossiers. It's the periodic table and elements having to do with the world, which are all part of the scientific side of the book. You have the biomachinery aspects, the blood disorders. You have the religion that came into it. You have the politics of the Bloodline Secret Society. I mean, it's really deep. The information you get. The chakras are explained because chakras are real. In fact, a secret, I'll give away a secret here. Only those who watch this podcast will have this secret. Nobody else will know this. So Ace, the main character, he's renamed Ace because he's abducted and they don't want people to use real names. So they just name him Ace as a pseudo name. And he has this magnetic bio bracers on his wrist. You read them in book 1 and 2 where he's experimented on in China, in Wuhan, China, of course, for no reason, just happens. That's where the human experiments take place. So he has the bio bracers on that are magnetic, and magnetism is chaotic. There's polars to it. You know, it's push and pull, all this energy. And so in the future, in book 5 and then in book 8, a lot, he has to really hone down this negative, chaotic energy that magnetism has brought to him. And he learns some of the chakra energies, yin and yang, come into play with him. And so there's a balancing effect that happens, which is, it's cool to see. It's cool to bring in the old world, again, Japanese, Indian, Asian cultures with this chakra, and there's some Shinto involved and some martial arts training and some chi energy. And then you bring that in with the chaotic youth, testosterone, revenge, my parents were killed, magnetism, making me go crazy. You bring all that together and you have a really interesting character. I hope that I do it justice in my writing.
Oh, it does. That's the big thing for me is like I got the source book last time, with the second one. And I can highly recommend everybody to get both of these add-ons. It just, for me, it helped develop the story even more, because you get that underground, that background understanding of what's going to happen.
Yeah, well,
And
thank you
for the
for ordering that. I really appreciate that. I mean, us Kickstarters, we appreciate anyone that throws us a bone. Thank you so much.
oh yeah, I mean, and for the cost of it, I mean, that's not hard, So that's the thing. Is like everybody needs to look at it, and we'll look at some of the pricing here on the side too. Like, look at this, $5 for the PDF for the regular cover, you know, and the other are all $5. And because PDFs are a big thing now for a lot of people, because
Right.
people want to buy the book, but they also don't want to open it. They just want to have it for the artwork on the cover. And so
Mhm.
they read it digitally. And, like for me, it's a lot easier reading everything on my phone or my computer than it is taking out every book all the time. I still get nostalgic though, because
Yeah.
I still open every book when I get it in, But does that mean I'm going to sit there and break out every book? Not every time,
Well,
you know.
I need to have that tactile relationship. I'm huge into graphic novels. I
Mm.
want to bring it on the plane with me. I want to sit on the beach with my little umbrella over me, hearing the waves and reading my graphic novel. If I can get a book 1 to 6, maybe 1 to 10 sometimes in these bigger graphic novels, and just have reading for days, that's what I look forward to.
And that's what I do actually. Like I'll get, because I support a lot of Kickstarters, from different companies.
Right.
And so what I'll do is I'll just get a bunch of them, put them on my phone, and I'll have like a day's worth to read. So if I'm flying somewhere, I can
Right.
read that for a while.
Yeah.
Or if I'm just waiting to pick up my kids from school, it gives me an avenue to be able to read it, and it's
Yeah.
easy. So I highly recommend, if you don't buy the physical, at least buy the PDF version.
Yeah, thanks. So let's stay in the middle column here and scroll down in the middle. I have all the tiers and the cost there for us to see when we scroll down. There
All
we go.
right.
Yep, there's the regular, the original, I guess. And that I got to tell you, of all the covers that I've put out there on social for people to see, and I must have put out a dozen different covers for all the different books that I've done. This is the one that most people say that is a good cover. Like they really love. They know exactly what it is, and
They do.
I threw in the Taiwanese flag there in the back.
Yep. I see
Uh,
that.
and the reason is because that guy is the drug manufacturer for the underworld that we're in China, and he came from Taiwan as a drug manufacturer, a drug chemist, and he was taken on into the bloodline to help them make money by making drugs. But so I have him with the being Taiwanese, even though it's not part of the original cover from Breaking Bad.
That's awesome. And that's the thing. And you're right. It will jump out at people when they see it. They know that's Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So they can tangibly see that and grab to it.
There's Franz Mesmer. People don't know him very much. They know the word mesmerism or hypnosis, but he had a real wild life. He married a widow so he would get her money. He was seen as totally debunked by Benjamin Franklin, debunked his mesmerism. He would have full-on orgies of really rich aristocratic women who would have fits of fanaticism or whatever, and he would bring in these really sexy guys to gradually touch them in certain places to calm them down, and they took it as medicine. The whole thing was just weird. And when I started researching what he did, I had to put it in the book. Now, what do we put in the book? We put in the book this thing called a baquette table, or we would call it a bath in English, but in French it's baquet, Baquet, something like that. And if you look at issue number 6 when it comes out, the cover has a baquette table in it. I call it baquette. Who know? I'm English. I speak in English, but that's a freaky image. The baquette table. If you look it up, you'll see some crazy stuff. It'll be dark.
Well, like I saw it and I was thinking Dracula. Look, almost the way he was like perched over her.
Yeah. In the first book, Ace does see a vision of 250 years ago of Mesmer, who he's using his powers on this woman. And that's the beginning of like the connection to, wait a second, there's more to the blood than just a disorder. There's also more than just powers. There's in addition, there's history, and there's connection through lineage. And we try to bring all that into the story. There's the manga cover. Now she's called manga, people say it's manga. Well, she's not named after the comic book in Japan. She's named after her element, manganese. Everybody is named after or has a relation with some kind of element that has to do with either their blood disorder or their cybernetics. And so the guy who has too much calcium in his blood, his element is carbon, because carbon's the strongest, one of the strongest elements. But with all the calcium in the guy's blood, it makes his bones almost indestructible, kind of like not Luke Cage, who is indestructible bones.
Oh,
Wolverine has adamantium. It's not the
well,
same.
yeah, he's got that, but Luke Cage has the skin.
The skin, yeah, it's in that vein though. It's bones, but it's in that skin. Unbreakable bones. Anyway, because so his number would be 5, or is it 6? Whatever carbon is would be his number, and his letter would be C for carbon, and his power would be related with calcium. I mean, there's a whole bunch of periodic table and elements involved in the story. If you're a buff in science, or if you loved, physical science when you were in high school, this is a book series for you that you can get into. It's not overly done, but there's a lot of Easter eggs in there. We do a lot of Easter eggs.
And that's what kind of entranced me with the storybook, was just bring me in with the science part, because I'm an engineer by trade. So that's what I do, is science and technology. So those little pieces and parts of, like, the cybernetic piece, that's what brought me to the story.
It makes me happy. It makes me happy. It's not for everybody, but that's why we have all the other aspects. One of the things that we do is music. Every single page in the comic, every page has a QR code that links right to a music video on YouTube. And that video, if you play it, the music will get you in the ambiance, in the atmosphere that I'm trying to portray from that individual page. You turn the page, you turn the next song on, and then you read with that next song playing, and it's much more immersive into the story. And I liked that little bit. I think comic creators today need to be adding these little Easter eggs and these little historical connections and these little pieces, like this music piece that I have. You need to add that into your comic to make your comic stand out and have something just a little bit extra. One of the things that people said when they were walking by my table was they seemed, at least maybe it was my sales pitch or whatever, but they seemed like they were getting more for their $5 with me because of all the aspects that they were a part of as the package. And I hope that we can bring value to our customers. That's a big part of being in this business.
It is, and being able to understand what the customer wants too. And that's hard. That's the hardest piece I've noticed in the industry today, is figuring out what do customers really want to see and read today. And it's a big dynamic when you talk about the big two versus indie scene. The big two is all about the variants, and it's all about, not much of the story, it seems like.
Right, the story is not really there as much. That's true.
No,
I mean, they do have some wins. I mean, I'm not going to badmouth them too much, because sometimes they get a great graphic novel that comes out that took the whole year to produce, from all the different Justice League characters or whatever. And I applaud them for those, big unified pieces, the omnibuses and things. But most of the production that I've seen is just not that great story, and that makes me sad.
It does. I mean, seeing Spider-Man done the way he's done now, X-Men, I've seen, like, the Powers of X and things that, like Ages of X, like they really tried with that story, like
Agreed.
to make it a good story,
100%.
And so they pushed it. But on the DC side, I mean, the only thing that I really read that was actually interesting was the Harley Quinn, the Batman Damned, the Black Label stuff. To me, that's what in the, like, Curse of the White Knight, IDW brought in The Last Ronin, which was phenomenal. That was one of my favorite books to read.
And I don't know, it's been a while, but 10 years ago was the Green Lantern heyday with the Black Lantern and the White Lantern.
Yep.
I mean, that was great storytelling all through the 2000s for Green Lantern. So these publishers can do well in the stories, but maybe in the last 10 years or less, the stories have just fallen off the table in some regard.
Well, I think for me, the reason I stopped reading the big two was I had to have 30 books to make sense of one storyline from Marvel. And I'm like,
It's funny.
okay. You started thinking about, okay, $30 times $5 a book. It's like, okay, that's a lot of that's a lot of money.
Right.
Over time.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
and in addition, if you go and pick up, and I know you mentioned you love Batman. Who doesn't love Batman, right? But you pick a Batman book, and you might have 19 or 20 pages of story. You're going to have 5 or 6 pages of ads, and that's the whole comic right there. And
correct.
to me, when you're getting 19 or 20 pages of story, and half of them are one panel explosive fight scene, you're not getting very far in that story in that book. You're just not getting very far. So what we did with Orphan Bloodline is I said I would never do that. All of these books are super thick. They have 36 pages all the way through. I mean, it's massive comic for what you're paying. The $5 and you're getting 36 pages. That's really an XL sized book.
And that's why independent to me is where I flourish a lot, because I'm getting good story, I'm getting good art. It makes logical sense, and a lot of the time it's self-contained. Within that book, there might be some onesie twosie crossovers with certain books, but it's not like 80 books or 90 books that you have to get. And so self-contained stories in a series is always fun.
Yeah.
Now, granted, what happens to a lot of people is that they get that itch, like, okay, I got this one book done. Where's my next book? Well, that's going to be a couple months from now.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
I mean, the really aggressive, I wouldn't say the ones who are on top of their game, they might do 3 Kickstarters a year. If you're getting more than that, you're getting a lot. Like Carissa, you mentioned, I mean, she does them every other month. But most people, if they're on top of it, they're doing 3 issues for their series per year. So in 2 years, you'll get the whole graphic novel. And if you want to support that creator and his artistic team, if you want to support that story, that's what you do, and it's $5 a piece or whatever it is, and you're in for your $30, and you have the whole series over time, and you were able to be part of that creation. It's not just buying something. That's something that's cool about Kickstarter is you're not just buying something. You're actually part of the birth of this idea and this artistic team and this this I don't know, this baby that we're all putting together.
and that's the thing is like, when that's the difference between buying a book, like say from your LCS, versus buying it through Kickstarter. Kickstarter, you can be actively engaged with the creators as it's being done. Like,
Right.
you can say, hey, these are things I see, or hey, can we help out with this, or vice versa. The updates come out telling you where the books are, and going on, hey, like we've all seen it, printer issues lately. People have had
Right.
multiple printer problems, where it was sent to the wrong place, or it got sent their own file, or even better, you're stuck in the queue forever to get printed. Your stuff's already there, and you're just waiting for it to be printed. That's out of your control. There's nothing you can do,
Right.
and that's what the thing about Kickstarter is like, if you're going to back a Kickstarter, you have to understand that to have patience. That's a word that a lot of people don't have anymore. Is to have the patience that it will come. Just give it time.
Yeah.
Now, if you go say 2-3 months and you don't give an update on where things are, that's
Yeah.
a different story.
Communication is the key, and I think people
Correct.
can and are patient for sure, but it's if you give them that communication.
Yeah. I mean, if you communicate, let me know what's going on. I'm your best friend in the world. But you start ghosting me after 2 to 3 months, and then I'm going to be asking other questions. Like, did you just take my money and run?
Right.
Um, and that's not the perception we want for the independent scene either.
Right.
But, like, hey, okay, this guy took all the money and ran and still hasn't fulfilled, which we've all seen that. It's happened this last couple of years. People have done that. But you know what? They've had a hard time in the comic community because of it too.
Yeah.
Everybody's jumped onto them, so it's not worth it to do it that way. So just be honest and do what you need to do,
Yeah.
and communicate. That's number one thing about a business: communication.
Yeah. Let's go back to that Kickstarter screen and see what's next. I'm excited to see. I mean, I know I put it together, but I'm excited to see what's the next in line.
Oh yeah. All right, let's take a look here. I want to put it this way. Where's it go? We'll figure this. I gotta love how it does this one. There we go.
You got it. Yeah.
All right. So we've got the source book.
Yep.
So
And that goes through all the things that I mentioned before with the world. World building is a big part of Orphan Bloodline. If you're someone who wants to know more, you want the Lord of the Rings world, you want the Wheel of Time world, you want these big fantasy worlds, then this is a story that you can get behind, because we try to be broad and deep like that. Now, this is only issue 3, and there I've written already 20 issues, and so there's some art coming. But there is a lot of surprises. In fact, the very first page of the very first issue, something is done there that is exposed in the very last page of the 6th issue, so that the whole graphic novel arc has something from the very first page and the very last page that finally connect. And I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you want as a reader. You want to have those things that linger and that are solved later on in the story.
Definitely, because I mean that's what we call the hook. That hooks you into the story to keep you engaged into it, and you gotta have that.
So these are the items. This is the physical book, so it's $8, and that's what you're getting is the stickers and the bookmark. And the bookmark is double-sided, full color, nice and thick paper. You can see that that's nice and thick bookmark, and then your stickers. And you get that with everything. Every physical item that you purchase gets those along with it. I wanted to make sure I threw some items in to get you the brand in your hand. I have it on the back of my phone, actually. I'll show you that. The sticker. It's great. It's great. It's part of me now. And my shirt too.
Gotta support the brand.
Yeah. All right. That's the physical alternate. Physical. I call it the seductive cover. It's going to be the hot girl cover is what it is. That's that third one. Third cover. That's the physical. Again, $8. Not bad for the physical book.
No, not at all.
36 pages, super thick paper, high quality printing job. And then if you want to catch up, you want all 3 books in the PDF version, there you go. $10 and you get all 100 pages for $10. That's amazing, I think.
That's crazy, because you think about, like, you know, the book 3 by itself is $8, but the catch up is $10. So, you know, that's an astronomical deal.
That's the PDF version versus the print. But yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the foil cover, and it's signed. Again, I wouldn't say foil, the holographic. You can see how this is holographic with the rainbow that's coming. The rainbow cover you get for a few more bucks, but it's the collector's edition, and I sign it, so that's included in there. I think that's a really great price, $11. If you go to Comic Cons, most indie comics, you want to buy just the one, you're going to pay, $8 to $10, and this is going to have this nice holographic cover. So I stand behind the quality of printing that we have.
I do too, because that's why I bought the first 2 that way. I'm a little biased.
Yeah. This is the tarot cards. Again, I'm really proud of these. This is the Major Arcana set. So it's like 22 cards, and they're all super high quality. And I like the idea of tarot, not because I'm a believer, because I really am not, but I just think they're fun. I think they're cool. And so if you're a tarot person and you want to replace your Major Arcana set with the Orphan Bloodline version, $12, no big deal.
That's awesome.
And we put the Charter comic logo on the back because this is the Charter tarot deck.
All right. And so there's the
physical catch up for $20. Yep. 3 for $20, like at a Comic Con. This one here is the PDFs of the first 3 plus the next 3. So this is going to be you're going to throw your trust in with us. You were mentioning people don't fulfill. So you're going to be buying ahead of time all the PDFs. So you're already in at this point. $23 is the whole graphic novel. Now we're on finishing the 3rd one now. So there's 3 more coming. But that's part of the support of the Kickstarter, helping us get this money in place to make these happen.
And I noticed, though, it says final chapter due November. So does that
Next
mean you're getting all 4, 5, and 6 by the end of November
of next year.
next year? Okay.
Yeah, I should have put 2024, but yeah. So I did 3 this year, and I'll do 3 next year. That's how it'll work.
Okay.
These are the holographic, all 3 holographic covers, physical. We don't have that many of these, so it's one of those limited editions, and they're signed, and you get the PDFs and the stickers and bookmark.
Highly recommend. If you don't have the first 2, then just grab it this way.
Yeah. This is for the retail store. If the stores want to carry all 3 books, I can get them 5 copies of each. $50. They have 15 books in hand, about the same price you'd pay with Lunar or Diamond. It's not like we're making money really on this. We're really getting the name out with this. We want to support the stores to have an affordable book they can put on the shelf, and I'll come out and we'll do signings and whatever we need to do to make it work.
Definitely. And that's a big thing that people don't understand is like the independent seed isn't really easy to be put into an LCS unless you go through Lunar and Diamond half the time. So Kickstarter is giving a lot of creators options now like this. So you can, if I'm a retailer, at a comic store, or say I'm a worker bee, I can take a look and say, hey, boss, guess what? There's this book out there I think we should try to carry. This is a good avenue for that. Just to start it. You're not really signing up for everything, but what you're signing up for, say, okay, if I have 5 copies of each one, we sell it and it does well, then maybe I come back to you and say, okay, let's look at something different.
Yeah. The next slide is the merchandise. We have lots of merch. You have the tarot deck up there on the top. You have the keychain next, right there. This is the keychain. It's also holographic. You can see reflection there. I just like my logo. If you look at it, it's part of the symbol of Orphan Bloodline. This is the O, this is the B. All the letters in Orphan Bloodline in the logo, they come from historical symbols back from history. And the reason I did that was to say the Bloodline Secret Society has been with us since like 3000 BC. And so all of these symbols that we know, they had an impact. They were impacted by people with blood powers. And so we can write stories about the first coven in the Dark Ages, or about Pharaoh, for instance, or about Hydernus the Younger. I wrote a story about Hydernus the Younger with my son. It's absolutely amazing. It's 36 pages as well. It's really, really long story about him and how he fought the Greeks, but then he dies in Persia, and then his sacred ancestral item of power is found in a cave in modern day Iran. And so we have an Iranian story that we're going to do as a side story next year. So really cool to be able to bring in these other stories into our system. And any writer who wants to jump on board with Orphan Bloodline and write a story about what have you in history, we can have them on board.
See, that's awesome. That's a good avenue for writers, because that's the thing is it's I'm not gonna say it's easier for artists, but it seems like it's a lot harder for a writer to get into the independent scene unless you start with a comic group, because it's hard to get your own story out there,
right?
Versus just helping out with somebody else's.
Yep. Here's some buttons that we have, and those come along for $1 or so. Just a lot of cool stuff. And all this stuff is add-ons, so you can tack on $1 or $3 on the add-ons and get some cool stuff. There's some D&D dice there in the middle. I haven't received that yet. It's still coming. Remember, this is a Kickstarter. We don't have everything today. There's stuff still coming. But the D&D dice, you can get the blue and gold, or you can get the silver and red. And it's Egyptian dice. It has the eye of Horus, which is part of the Orphan Bloodline, the letter R. comes from that. And these D&D dice are kind of hollowed out and carved out through the dice. And then it has this Egyptian look. It's super high quality. We'll have to do a video when they come out, and I'll put it on social. But if you like D&D dice, the metal, heavy, artistic, carved dice, that's what that is.
And for $98, that's pretty good, folks. When you see you get this and the Nintendo game, because I've seen that Nintendo game in person. I want that one, but I was like, I gotta be good. I can't get everything.
Right. Yeah. So we did have a couple people buy an ad, which is great. If you guys want to do an ad, we'll throw it in there with your business, and you also get obviously the books, and you get them signed and all the bonuses like that. But that's really, if you want to support the book's production at a higher dollar amount and you have a business, this is a great way to do it. We did have 2 people, or 3, I guess 3 from the previous 2 issues. So that was nice.
That's the best way to get your name out, is in a comic book. Somebody grabs that, reads it. Oh, it's made by this. Let me go check this out. So let me go. And it helps out a lot.
This is if you want to be drawn into the comic. We actually did do that. We created a character for somebody. There were 2 people that wanted us to create characters for them. One of them, the guy is now going to be like the really evil dude that comes in book 11 at the end of the first 2 graphic novels. That's his character, who's like the evilest of the evil. And then the other guy, his character comes in book I'm not sure what number it is now. I can't come up with it. But he's a professional wrestler in Canada, and he has this big like antlers on his head. It's real, 80s aggressive wrestler, WWF back in those days. And his blood disorder is he has a pheromone issue, and so he's wrestling and he's sweating and all this pheromones coming out of him, and he beats the guy, and then his body is emitting these pheromones, and the audience loves him because they're persuaded by his pheromones. And so then he goes, I'm going to use this, and he goes into politics, and he gets elected because of his blood disorder, of his pheromones pumping the crowd with endorphins to support him. It's a crazy way to use, again, biology and then making it into a blood power for yourself to move forward in the country and in the world. So that's just another twist. If you guys, anybody watching this, has an idea about a blood power, send it over to me. We'll do it.
Oh yeah. That to me, that would be a fun thing. Like if you can come up with story. Like I remember Daken, which was Wolverine's son.
Uh-huh.
He had a similar situation where he emitted pheromones, but it wasn't for the good reason. It was
right.
It would stop you in your tracks, kind of freeze you, and then he would kill you with it. So it's like, it's cool to see pheromones used in a different way.
Well, pheromones are often also looked at as like love potions, that kind of a thing. They take over your body and control you. There's that mentality. This is just one of the blood disorders too. There's an infinite number out there. This here we're looking at on the screen is the digital collection. I was very honored to have many people come to me saying they give me their number 1s to send out to the audience, to the backers. So on the add-ons, you can tack that on for 16 number 1s of these awesome books. And these are books, some of them that came out like this month, on Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. Some of these are new. And they're all premium anyways, high quality. Some from Charter, obviously, because we're Charter, right?
Of course.
But most of them are, some of these are award-winning books. You're not going to be upset about these guys.
No, and I'm looking at the list of these are the ones, of course, I support too, like Mary Machine Gun, Midnight Highway. Those are good stories. I see that one say Grandma Chainsaw. That kind of interests me.
When I saw that one, I'm like, that one's got to be on the list. Grandma Chainsaw. You want to just read it. You just want to open the book and see what Grandma's doing with the chainsaw today.
Exactly. It's like, is it going to be Leatherface or is it going to be Ash from Evil Dead?
The Sovereign book, I helped him with his Kickstarter. That world is a huge world, like my story. It's a big world building comic. So Sovereign would be that vein if you're interested in world building.
Definitely. And I've read, of course, I've read Path of the Pale Rider and Redemption,
Yep.
but also Ice Pick. That's a good story. Like it's a solid one for people to read.
I haven't read that one yet, but I have it on my list. That's all the merch. If you look really close, there's a periodic table there in the middle above the t-shirt that has the actual elements in the acrylic. That's a great piece. We're getting that in. We have the graded tarot cards there in the bottom right corner. You can get yourself a rib rub. We have some of those left here at the house. We ran out with them on the road, but I mean, just enjoy. Let's get a few fun items for your house that you wouldn't otherwise find in a Kickstarter. We're trying to be different and unique a little bit. And Carissa with her Worthy Chaos series, that really showed me the kind of the expanse of what you can do with merch. And so I grabbed some of her ideas.
Oh yeah, I don't think nobody beats Carissa with how much merch she puts out every Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I was floored by how much, and then I bought a bunch, of course, during the first one I did,
Yeah.
because I'm a merch guy, so I always like seeing buttons and stickers and
Right.
cards and everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
let me try this out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. So this is the first stretch goal. Everybody gets a cool sticker. This is the one we used on the rub. We used it on the Nintendo. This is the original first cover from issue number 1, not the one with the holographic, but the original cover. I love that cover actually. So I'm glad to give that sticker away to all backers, including if you just back $1. You just back $1 and don't even get anything. You're still going to get this mailed to you in the mail. I'll throw it in an envelope. I'll throw a stamp on it, and you'll have it because I want everybody that backs to get something. And so $2,000, that's the goal. $3,000 is the next one. That's going to be, you're going to get yourself a tarot card, and they're super nice. They're fun. And then the next goal, that's where you're going to get yourself a bookmark, double-sided. And then these are all backers, digital or physical. And the 5,000 stretch goal, that's with Comics Illustrated. Everybody's going to get a free PDF of their newest magazine that came out this month. Wheeler really stepped forward on that and offered it to me, even though he just launched. So I was happy to throw that in there as a $5,000 stretch goal. Let's see if we get there. We'll see if we get there. I think we have a good product here. I think we have a good product. We have good merch. We have good storyline. We have a good publishing house with Charter. We have great long quality print job. So I think we have something to offer here.
I do, and I'm looking at the names that's on Comics Illustrated. They're good friends of mine: RB White, Elsie Freitas, Mike Barron. So like, that's a definitely one that. Did they have a Kickstarter for that book, or did they just sell it outright?
I think it just went to sales. I think it just went to sales is how they. That's my thought. Okay. I think that's how it happened. Author's note is just what you were saying earlier, and that's the end.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so the biggest risk, to any Kickstarter, of course, is not being funded. So everybody that watches this show, definitely come in there. Hey, we've got $50 already started, so that's a good start. We got $20, 20 days to go on this one.
Yeah, I did a short one. I don't really like the 4 or 5 week Kickstarters. It's just too long. It needs to be done, and I think in about 3 weeks. That's my thought. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to end it right before Halloween, and we're doing podcasts all this week and next week, and we're doing social media heavy, and we're paying money for the international people to push some stuff for us. Hopefully, it works out.
Oh, it's going to work out. I mean, you guys have done good. I mean, even the last one was a good Kickstarter. Ironically, if you look at your name and you see how many Kickstarters you've done, you're on your third one. The first one was the one I wish I would have joined in on, which was your food.
Oh, was it the whiskey box? The beer
whiskey
box?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was worth it. I still have a couple here actually. I'll remember you. Big old Nate. You're gonna get a beer box.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge, of course, being in Texas, we do everything big in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we always like to barbecue and grill. So hey, your rub is right there with us.
Right there.
All right. Now you did send me a couple of things I do want to show. Let's pull this up. All right. These are a couple clips for you guys.
Uh-huh.
Come on, StreamYard.
Upload. Well,
Yeah,
it's no big deal because we're gonna post these online anyways. Let's say goodnight for tonight and let the watchers go back to Kickstarter. But
exactly.
I'm gonna be back on with you soon, and we'll keep talking. And then maybe next time I'll bring a little bit of a side story that just will blow your socks off. And
That,
some of these stories, when I get writing on these, it makes me I get the chills. So hopefully I can pass that along to you.
definitely. And I got a couple ideas I'll throw your way too.
Excellent,
For
excellent.
maybe just for your story, because I used to work with the medical field, so I
Yeah,
might have some ideas for it.
I wanna get it. We need real science. We don't want to be fake. We don't want to just say fireball. We don't want to do that. We want to be put it in real world physical boundaries as much as we can. I really appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Rick, for coming on. And I hope everybody goes out. I put the link down in the description below, as well as his Facebook and
Yeah.
the Kickstarter. So go join that today. Help yourself out. Go get some Orphan Bloodline and get with us. So this has been your Redneck from Texas Nate. This has been Rick Duree from Orphan Bloodline and Charter Comics. Thank you guys so much. I hope everyone has a great night.
See ya.
All right.